and welcome to my channel. This is Alaka here, and I was about to say for EP Creative Media, but this is actually on the Alaka only platform, so it's not my other platform. And I just pretty much figured that I would come on here and excuse me, just give you a tutorial on how to create your own cover art for your social media platforms, particularly for Facebook, for YouTube, as well as for Twitter. And the reason why I'm giving this tutorial is actually because I was about to see if I can update my own platforms, which is what I'm going to be using as a basis for my tutorial. And so I thought, because I tend to give advice and information, that sort of thing, on how to brand yourself on social media, I figured, why not give you a tutorial whilst updating my own platform in the process. That way it's kind of like a win-win. It's a win for me, and also it saves me having to make a separate video, because initially I was going to actually make a separate video that I was going to just upload and give people, like, tricks and tools on how to create your own cover image. And so now that's why I'm not on screen right now, because I don't think I matter right now. The most important thing is that I actually just get on with the tutorial and I show you what it is that we are going to be working on. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see. Let me see. Okay, so we are going to be sharing Photoshop. So the first one that I'm actually going to be showcasing to you is actually via Photoshop. Photoshop is the one that I use the most for all my artwork and things like that. And so that is the one I'm going to start with. And then when I'm done with the Photoshop shop version, I'm actually going to show you, for those who don't have Photoshop, I'm actually also going to show you how to create one using platforms such as like PowerPoint. And it's actually possible to do it from PowerPoint. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this. You can even use Word, if I'm not mistaken, but PowerPoint is a lot more easier because of the way it's formatted. It makes it a little bit easier. And so what we're going to do is, as you can see, I've got loads of thumbnails and things like that here, but I'm going to go and create new. And something you need to be aware of is that all the social media platforms, all three of them, have got different specs on the size that you require to create your cover art. And so fortunately, I think one of the last cover arts I did create happens to be one that I did for Facebook. So you can see the specs that are showing up here, 820 by 312, if I'm not mistaken. Those are actually the specs for Facebook. And so we're going to start with Facebook, but just to be on the safe side, I'm going to quickly check cover art specs. I'm going to quickly check to see what they are, because I hardly ever memorize them. Okay, so 820 by 312. Okay, so I was correct about that. So it's definitely the size that you need for it. Looks really odd, but you get used to it as time goes by. So I'm updating my social media. So you probably saw from the thumbnail before this live started, or you probably see it afterwards, that I literally had one particular image across the board from a particular photo shoot. And this is one that I've had on there for nearly 10 years and I haven't changed it, which is, I think, is so crazy, considering considering that I'm there going around like helping other people. But it's always easier, to be honest. Like, sometimes I feel lazy to do my own thing and I have more energy to kind of like help other people. It's bizarre, but I suppose that's how God created me, right? And so I'm gonna put this onto full screen so that you can actually have a full view of it. And so ideally this is a plain one, and so it's like starting from scratch. And because it is Facebook personally, I find very, very, very easy, if truth be told. And so now the question is, what image am I going to use? Because you need to think about the image that you're going to be using, right? Preferably, if you've got any professional pictures, it's always recommended that you use a professional picture, because the higher in quality your image is, the better it is in terms of helping your brand actually look good, if that makes sense. And then also you have to think about, depending on the type of platform that it is, if it's your personal one as a public figure or a singer or an actress, that sort of thing, what are you going to actually write about yourself that's very brief, very straight to the point? Or if it's like a business platform, what actually are you going to write in terms of what services are you offering? Is there something that you would like people to know? Are you going to add your website? Those elements are what you kind of need to think about when you are going to create one. And so obviously when I first created my one, it wasn't really a big thing to kind of point people to say, hey, I've got this, that, and the other. But now the times have changed and I've got the multiple platforms. Obviously, it's important and it's imperative that I make sure that the Facebook one contains information that says you can actually find me on various social media platforms. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to try and use a picture. Now, the question is which one, right? Because normally, hang on, let me go. I was going to do the import process, but the import process tends to take forever. So right now I've actually opened let me tell you what, because I think you're going to get bored if you're just seeing a blank screen. So I'm going to stop this share and then I'm going to reshare it so that you can actually see the screen. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to go back to just it being solo on Photoshop alone. So basically now I'm literally sharing the entire screen. That way I am able to bring my entire folder over to this side so that you can actually see what I'm trying to do here. So what I ideally want to do in this particular situation is find an image that is as recent as possible. Now, the issue that I have is for the past, I think, year or so, I have not taken any professional pictures, which I think is appalling. I think 2 years, 3 years have passed, even more, to be honest. But I'm going to go anyways and have a look and see what I actually do have. Here's a little tip. If you have not got the funds to put together a professional picture, but you've got a good smartphone that can take great pictures, all you have to do, and you kind of have to MacGyver it, is that you need to basically use a tripod. You might have your tripod, but again, if you don't have a tripod, you have to find something to sit your phone on and use the back end of your camera. Do not use the selfie side. The selfie side has got lower resolution than the one, the back end of your camera. And so if you use the back side of the camera, you will be able to actually take really, really clear pictures. And so long as you find like a nice background, that sort of thing. I'll show you one, which quite frankly, I'm not really keen to share because one, I'd gained a lot of weight, but I needed to take some pictures that were a little bit clear. And so I literally did that. Let me see if they're here. Let me see if they are here. Okay, as you can see, I used the long end of the camera because I actually was trying to find a place within my house that was clear, right? And I couldn't find a section in my house that was clear. And so this is the result of the pictures that I ended up taking. As you can see, the reason why I was kind of trying to edit was I did it in the bathroom because the light in there was the most, like, there was the brightest in there. And I was able to take some good pictures. So it was one of those situations where the good thing is with my camera, you can either put it on timer. With mine, I actually had put the camera, well, my camera actually, when I tell it to smile, it takes a picture. So I was literally doing that. I was literally shouting, smile, 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 and just trying out different angles. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to just, edit certain things out of the way. But I actually don't mind this one. I mean, I don't know, hindsight is 2020, right? So I don't mind this particular picture at all. And so I think I might actually use this one, to be honest. I'm going to actually use this one. And if you're going to use a portrait picture of yourself when you are creating the cover images, Never try to use one. Did it go? Okay, it's loading. Never try to use one that is just your head alone. You have to have at least from the waist, from the, you know, the bust area and up, if you're going to use one that's got your head in it. That way it just, I don't know, image wise, it just aesthetic wise, it looks better rather than just having your head, because you just end up looking like you're trying to create an emoji of yourself, and you don't want that. You kind of want to avoid that at all costs. So I'm going to zoom in on this one. And then what I'm going to do is, so obviously this is supposed to be a tutorial. So what I did is, if you have Photoshop, literally, you know, it's a drag and drop action. And what I actually just did right now is I duplicated the image. In order to duplicate an image, or there are two ways that you can do it. You can right click on your mouse, and then you're going to have this menu that will pop up, and then it will allow you to actually duplicate the layer. When you click on duplicate layer, it will bring up that pop-up which will ask you duplicate, and then it will rename it as copy whatever, and then you can click OK, and there's your copy. So I'm just going to delete that one because I've already done one already. The other way that you can actually do it is you can select the image that you want to duplicate, and then using the Alt key, you press down on the Alt key, and then after you press down on the Alt key, you slide it either below or above it. So I'm going to go below. When I do that, it duplicates. So that's kind of like the shortcut where you can kind of be able to do it. That's how I did it initially. I'm going to delete that because I don't need it, obviously. And so the reason why I always duplicate an image that I'm going to be editing and things like that is, if I make any major mistakes, it leaves room to be able to go back to the original one, duplicate it again, and recreate it. Because sometimes the mistakes that you make can be so bad that you can't, you know, keep going backwards and backwards and backwards. Sorry, let me just check. I'm not even checking my comments. Hey, Anika. I just realized it's literally just now. I looked on the other side. I realized. Thank you, Nika. Thank you. So yeah. And so that's why I actually duplicate the image, in order, if I damage the other one really badly, it gives me an opportunity to actually be able to duplicate the original one. And you can kind of carry on. Make sure that every time, if you damage the duplicate version, and you have basically gone back to the original one, make sure that you do another duplicate as well. Don't use the original one, because if you use that one, then you won't have any more left if you keep making major mistakes that you can't fix, basically. You know what I mean? And so that's literally what it is. So in this case, I have duplicated my image, and then what I'm going to do is, I'm actually, you can see it's got the icons next to the images and all the layers. I'm just going to hide the first one. That way I don't get mistaken in any way, shape, or form. And so and it allows me to click on the one that's above it so that I can actually work on it. And so what we're actually doing now is, I'm going to be using the selection tool, which is on the, what is this, the left side of the panel, and which is, it's up there. It's actually not far off. It's not difficult to find. That's the selection tool. But this is not just the selection tool. It allows you, it's kind of like almost magnetic. It works in a very similar fashion to the magnetic lasso tool. The only difference with this one is it kind of does a more overall selection than having to go and point for point like you do with the lasso tool. With the lasso tool, it kind of acts like a bit of a magnet type situation. And so that's what we're going to do now. So let's see. Okay, so one of the biggest tricks that you can do as well when you're, can you see this one is, the resolution is not really high. I'm not sure if it's because it's I don't know if I didn't duplicate this image, did I? I don't know. But I think it's high enough resolution. Like I said, the higher the resolution your image is, the better it is for you to be able to represent your brand. And so using the selection tool, as you can see above here, I don't know if you can see that, it's got the plus and the minus option. So I'm going to use the plus option, because the plus option is the one that allows me to actually create the selection. And if I find that I have overdone the selection, I can go to the minus part of it, where I can actually take out anything that I've kind of overshot on the lines. So the idea here is obviously to go around around all there, and then, you know, just keep that way. I can be able to use the image however it is that I like. And so let us do that. And another thing as well, when you are doing the selection, you have the option to expand or decrease the cursor, and you use that using the bracket tools. Now, if I had my keyboard, I don't know how to show you on the keyboard wise. Actually, maybe I can, but I don't know if it might take a while to pop up. I'll click on that, hopefully to pop up, and I'll be able to show you how I do the decrease and increase. There it is. Hang on. All right. So on the keyboard, what I am actually, let me show you really quickly, and then I'll close it because this is good for accessibility and things like that. This kind of keyboard works out really, really well. Where is it? Oh, that's interesting. ABC. Okay, they don't seem to be here. So basically the brackets, I actually don't even know the actual name of the brackets. It's not these ones. It's the brackets that are kind of like square. But those are the ones that you press back and forth in order to, let's see. There they are. Here we go. So these ones are the ones that will actually allow you to decrease and increase the size of the cursor. So I'm going to close that because I don't need it right now. So yeah, those are the brackets that you kind of need. So when you've got Photoshop or Illustrator, a majority of the Adobe products, they actually use this quite a lot when editing, where you can increase and decrease as you please. So I'm going to just leave it in the middle slightly so that I can just do a wider selection of what I'm about to do. And as you can see, it picks quite quickly, but also it doesn't hesitate to select the whole thing when it gets a chance. And this is where the minus comes in, and you can just literally go back and take out what it is that you don't need. In this case, I'm going to decrease it, but not only am I going to decrease it, using the Alt key, pressing on the Alt key, and then with the mouse scroll, I'm going to scroll forward in order to zoom in. So when I zoom in, it allows me like a closer look at what it is that I'm trying to edit. And then in this case, you can see the cursor looks a lot bigger. So again, using the bracket keys, I'm going to make it smaller because I don't want it to over select what I need to select. And then remembering that I'm on the minus, I have to go back to the plus on the selection tool in order to select the image more precisely. And then I'm going to scroll down here, go back to the minus. So it's a lot of back and forth on this part, just so you can be able to capture what it is that you need to capture. In terms of like if you're creating thumbnails and artwork for your social media, this particular selection tool is actually the best one because it's precise and it kind of like it's less work that you have to actually do. You have to do less tweaking. And so as you can see, I've selected everything that I need to select. I'm quite happy with that. If I do need to do any tweaking, I will find out after I have removed the image from the background. And so in this case, what I tend to do is some people, they press Control X, which basically cuts it out, and then they press Control V, which pastes it back on the board. If you're using a Mac, it's Command X and Command V. In this particular situation, I'm actually not going to be cutting it out. I'm just going to be copying it. That way, I still maintain the second picture that I have in case I need it for anything else. Again, just a backup of a backup kind of situation. And so I'm going to be pressing Control C and then Control V. And so Control C, Control V, as you can see, the outlines have kind of disappeared because obviously I've done the action that is required. Normally, if you haven't placed the action yet, the outlines actually remain until you've actually made an action or you've cancelled it. And in this case, what I'm actually going to do using the eye icon, I'm going to hide the eye icon, which will show you that I have actually indeed removed the background. And then using the Alt key and scrolling backwards on my mouse scroll, you can see that the image is now on its own. Now, when I zoom in, because I am very finicky about how certain things are, you see like there's a little bit of the background that was left. Now, this is why it's important if you're going to take pictures, right? And this is another reason why I took pictures in my bathroom, is because the background is white. When the background is actually white, it allows you to be able to edit your pictures better because there's a more defined outline between yourself and the background. Whereas if your background is of various colors and things like that, it makes for more of a taxing process in order to kind of remove yourself from the background. And so here you can see there's a bit of background, but again, it's not that major, but for me, because I can see it, it's major. So what we're going to do, I'm going to delete some of that background just a little bit. So you have to go to the eraser tool, which is kind of halfway down and just above the bucket tool, and just click on it. Because we're not doing a full background, there's two ways you can erase items. You've got the magic eraser, which erases a huge background. If your background, for example, was completely plain, right, pretty much like the way it's looking right now, and let's say, for example, it was red, and I want to remove myself in back with this red background, I would use the magic eraser tool, and it would automatically remove anything red that's around me. But in this case, I don't need that. I just need the standard eraser tool. So I will zoom in using the Alt and scrolling forward on the mouse, and always check to see where the hardness is. Because if it's got feathering, it tends to go into whatever it is that's next to it, and it creates a slight transparency. So in this case, I don't want it to create a transparency. I just need a complete, more defined deletion of what I don't need. So I have made sure that the hardness is at 100%. And so by zooming in again, you can see the pixels, which makes it so much easier to actually edit. And so all you have to do is this. And pretty much, it's, again, it was nothing major, but this is the same method if you've got too much going on that you have, that you have left out, it allows you to do that. But also what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually smooth this out a little bit. And the reason why I'm doing it like this, creating it like to be a bit more rounder, is because it's having a very rigid straight line from when it was cut off will not look so great. Although now it makes me look like my bum is really arched, but that was not the plan. But you'll see what I'll likely do is I'll probably move it around, and kind of it will naturally be cropped out depending on what else I put in the background. Again, I'm going to repeat the same process on this side, and then that should get rid of that. And then also, like any bits like this, and this is just to help it like kind of smooth out a little bit, because sometimes when you do using the selection tool, you find that there are parts that do make it look a little bit odd. I like a smooth clearing, and so this is how I am able to obtain them. And so let me see. Okay, you can see right here, my head is touching the top, so I'm going to move it, and then I'm going to scroll in and see what's going on there. Can you see that flatness will not look nice and natural if I happen to place the photo nearer, like halfway down, and people can see the very top. So I need to fix that again using the exact same process, because I've zoomed in, and I'm just going to do this. And the reason why I'm doing the click, 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 click is because I need it to kind of seem more natural in that sense, rather than a smooth straight line. So hopefully this should look slightly better. Yeah, but not quite. Hang on. I think I might have to get rid of it completely. Get rid of that little whole gray area completely, I think. I know it creates another flat one on there, but because there's more color on there, it likely will look a little bit more natural, I'm assuming. So again, this is one of those things where you have to do a lot of trial and error. You go back and forth. But can you see here how it looks very like 45-degree angles, and it looks a bit rigid? Again, you go to those corners and you can literally just like clip off them like that to create something a lot more smooth. That way it looks more natural. It looks a little bit more natural. It looks less photoshopped, basically, in that sense. And then let's zoom out. Okay, slightly smooth, that's not too bad. So what I'm actually going to do now is, because I have got the line here at the end, which really I can't really do much about it, this is where I make the decision where I'm going to place the image. I can decide to place it on this side. If I place it on this side, then I would have to do a flip it around. That way this line is actually on this side. But fortunately for me, the line kind of is perfect to where I would prefer to put the image. And then I'm going to place it down like this. You see, that way this arch thingy that got developed on the side of my bum, whatever, is also gone. And so I think this kind of works really well. Yeah. And then also, like, if your picture, maybe if you want to make any changes to your actual image, that sort of thing, you can use this opportunity to clear up anything. Like, for example, on here, I can see that I've got a spot right there, right? Um, this is going to be quick. I'm not going to edit the rest of the picture. I'm going to leave it as it is, to be honest, because I don't think I really need to do anything. And so I'm just going to show you how you can actually remove any spots and stuff like that. And so, but I think if I'm going to doing like a whole tutorial on how to touch up pictures and stuff like that, I'll probably do that one on a separate video. But this is just to give you a brief on how you can actually do it in the process of adding an image. Literally, you have to go to the what's it called, the spot healing tool, which is right underneath the eye droplet tool. And when you click on it, it's got all these options. It's got the patch tool selection, you can remove red eye, the healing brush tool, which kind of like smooths out the face even more, and this one actually looks for spots and tries to clear them. And what it does, it actually samples the area around the face, and then it replaces whatever is there with what it samples nearby. So, and literally, and your spots are gone. And so it can be tricky sometimes, because sometimes if you don't do it, if you're not careful, it might leave like patchiness, and then which makes you having to go back and forth in the smoothing tool, and you have to go through a whole process. But you can see I have actually gotten rid of that spot, and I think there was another spot next to it, and I got rid of it. That was quick and simple. So that was just a little quick tip on that. And so now that I've got my image, I have to figure out how I want the rest of the cover art to look like, right? So in my case, I love a good frame. And because I love a good frame, because I don't know, I just feel like a frame just helps put the focus where it needs to be. I don't know, I could be wrong. And then also my brand colors across most of my platforms, or some of them anyways, in the Elaka one to be exact, is actually blue. And so I'm going to go to the shape tool, which is right at the bottom after the like 2 spots after the character tool. And I'm going to pick the rectangle tool. I can choose the rounded rectangle tool, but I don't want that one. I'm going to choose the rectangle tool. And with that, I am going to, if it appears, okay, here it is, literally just draw from corner to corner. You literally click and drag. And the good thing about Photoshop, it actually tells you when you've got your measurements correct. Like right now, it's telling me that I've got the exact measurements. And so that's when I let go, and it creates the shape. Now, right now, you can't see anything because of the fact that the shape has actually got a white border, and then the inside has got nothing. The inside, I like the fact that it's got nothing because I need it to stay with nothing. However, the stroke of it, rather than using the panel, because sometimes the panel pops up here, I prefer not to use that. I prefer to go at the top. The reason why is because it allows me to see what I'm actually working on a lot more clear than having to have icons popping up and blocking my view here. Unless I really need them, normally I prefer to use the top panel. And so all you have to do is click on the stroke section and the colors. And what the good thing about Photoshop as well, the most recent colors that you use, it actually saves them. And so you don't have to keep wondering, oh, what was that color that I used? What was that color that I found for my image? And so in this particular case, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to click the color picker tool, because I want to follow the branding that is on my hair. And so because when you go to the color picker tool, it automatically activates the is it the drop eye tool? Is it the drop eye tool? I always get that wrong. And so I'm just gonna go and pick the color from my hair. That way it kind of matches through and it still stays within my branding. And then I'm gonna keep that. And like I said, because Photoshop always maintains what you last used, it appeared there, and it's even appearing on the panel on the side there. That way, if I need to use it in any writing or anything like that, it's still going to stay where it is. And so now, as you can see, I've got the frame around me, which I like. However, one thing I do not like is the thickness. I feel it's a little bit too thick. And so I'm just going to go again, right next to the stroke is where you find the pixels of the size of the stroke. And so all you have to do is slide up and down. It's very, very, very fragile. And so you have to be really careful. Okay, there we go. So that is better. That one, the one I had at first, was a little bit too thick. And the reason why that one is thick is because I had to create the thumbnail for this particular video, and when I did that, I made it thick. When creating thumbnails, I prefer to make the frames a lot thicker because there's a methodology behind that in making it more attractive for people to actually come and view your channel, etc., that sort of thing. But again, that's going to be another tutorial for another day. And so okay, so now what's next? Now that I've got my face on there, I'm happy with the picture that I'm using. You know, I like that the fact I'm smiling. I'm hoping it's inviting. And the next step now is to figure out where I'm going to add all the other information in regards to my channel. Now, what I tend to do in this particular situation is I like a good line across as well. The line I can use for multiple things. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. So again, using the shape tool, it's literally the exact same thing. I haven't changed anything. I'm literally creating just an additional shape, which I am placing on top. There it is. And obviously, because it's still got the frame, it's still got the settings as the previous one, it's going to come out the same, but that's not what we want. We want it actually to be filled in. So in this case, I'm going to fill it in. And again, because the color is already there, you don't even have to fret about looking for it. And then I'm just going to go to the selection tool there. That way I don't edit it unnecessarily. And so I've kind of placed it there, but I'm actually going to just use the arrow keys going down, place it a little bit further down because I don't need it to be completely at the top. And so by having it on here, it's now giving me the opportunity to type in what I need to type it on there. So my plan here, now that I've actually got the image, it's allowed me to figure out where I can place whatever it is that I need. So across here, I'm likely going to put who I am, I suppose, you know, whether it be singer-songwriter, whether it be author, I don't know. I'll think of maybe just 3. I don't want to put too many. The main ones that appeal to me currently is what I'm going to put here. And then I'm also going to put my website. And then on this other part of the white space, I'm actually going to place social media icons. And I'm going to put the names of the social media icons, and then that's pretty much it done. So it's a very easy process. Obviously, it feels like it's taken long, but that's because I'm going through the process and actually talking as I go. Normally, I'll literally be like really quickly, and then I'll be done. And so now we're going to go to the character tool, click on that. And the good thing about the way Photoshop works is every time you're creating you're adding a new shape, you're adding a new character, anything new that you are actually adding in terms of actual items, automatically creates a new layer, so you don't have to worry about that. The only thing you have to be careful about, though, sometimes when it comes to shapes, is when you selected the character tool, try not to go directly into the shape that you've just created, because it might end up being inserted into the shape. So that kind of tends to happen sometimes. And so I tend to just find another area that I can be able to write on, and then I go ahead and I click, and then it opens up. Now, the previous thing that I did, obviously you can see the font was really, really large. So all you have to do is literally just scroll backwards, and it should be able to reduce. Whoa, I made it too small. There we go. There we go. There we go. Wow, 1.1. That's crazy. But it goes to show, like, the cover arts are not really that massive, because my image is literally 1 pixel in size, 1 point in size, which I don't understand. But anyways, that's neither here nor there, right? So in this particular case, there 2 particular font styles that I love using and I would recommend using, and it's recommended in the graphic arts world to use: Helvetica. Helvetica is a fantastic font to use all around. It's very clear. It's used in a lot of places, advertisement, that sort of thing. The other one I was introduced to by one of my fellow creators from my church, actually, last year. So shout out to Rix for this. Was Montserrat. Montserrat is another really, really nice one. The slight difference between Helvetica and Montserrat font is that Montserrat has got much slightly rounder edges. I can show you to you really quickly, and then we're going to go back to Helvetica because I want to use Helvetica for this one. So I'm going to quickly try and call up Montserrat. I've literally got over 1,000 fonts on my system, because I'm always doing all kinds of things, and then I'm like, oh, I need this font for this one, I need that font for that one. So I'm constantly adding and adding. As you can see, it's a whole list of Montserrat styles of fonts, which is amazing. And so here, I'm going to be using one that's kind of like regular. So you don't want it too thick, but you don't want it too thin either. Especially when it comes to going across on the board as a title kind of lettering. So this is Montserrat. Let me just go with the standard one so you can actually just see on the normal scale. Where is it? Regular. Here we go. So this is Montserrat regular. As you can see, if I zoom in, it's a little bit more round. Okay, we've zoomed in too much because we're seeing all the pixels. Okay, you can see it's a little bit more rounder. See the way the M is, you know, it's a little bit more rounder. Whereas if I go back to Helvetica, okay, again, like Montserrat, Helvetica has got quite a lot going on with it. They are great fonts. I really, really like them. They allow you to just create something professional without being too fussy, if that makes sense. They've got the variety that you need, basically. So I'm going to go with, it picked on its own. Helvetica Black. No, that's not the one we want. And the good thing about this is once you've selected it, if you're using a font that's got a variation of sizes, you know, being bold, black, oblique, you know, that sort of thing, once you clicked on it, you don't even have to go back to the list of all the fonts. All you have to do is go back to the selection of depth that it has. And that's what I'm about to do here. So I want to choose, I'm going to try Roman. Let's see what Roman looks like. Roman is good. I think I might actually use that. And so what I'm actually going to start with, I'm going to start with my website whilst I figure out in my mind what I'm actually going to say, co.uk. Okay, so that's my website. And then I'm click on the move tool there. And the reason why I always go back to the move tool is just to allow myself not to edit anything or mess anything about, you know, because sometimes when you're still in the section that you are editing and you forget and then you accidentally click somewhere else, you find that you might end up messing up. So every time I finish something and it's got the check mark, I'll either click the check mark or click enter, and then I'll go straight back to the selection tool. In this case, I'm going to press Control and T. So if you've got a Mac, it will be Command and T. Okay, so when you do that, obviously it selects the writing that I just did, and this allows you to kind of resize. Obviously, there's another way that you can resize your writing. I'm going to show you that in a moment. And I only did that so that I can be able to easily move it and also reshape it in the process. Again, the zooming I'm doing, as I said earlier, which is the using the Alt key and scrolling the mouse in and out. And so here, let me click on that and stretch it out. And I'm actually going to bring it right here, I think, and then stretch it out like this a little bit. Come on, stretch out. Okay, I think that's all right. Okay, voila. And so as you can see, it's in a slightly darker blue, and that's just the blue color that it had from earlier on when I created the thumbnail. And all I have to do, because I've used white before, because it's selected, right? I don't even have to Control T in this particular instance. All I have to do is click on the white color there, and it automatically changes it. And so that's literally what I'm trying to create. Now that I've got this and I want to maintain the font, I want to maintain roughly the same size. Actually, yeah, the same size. All you have to do, the exact method that I showed earlier on when I was duplicating the images. In this case, I'm going to click on it, right? Click on it on the Alaka, and then I'm going to press Alt and then slide. And then that automatically slides it out. But as you can see, right, whilst I'm sliding it out, if you notice, Photoshop is creating outlines. This is to tell me that I'm still on the exact same line as the other one that I've just duplicated from, which gives you a more precise formatting of your writing. That way you know that one is not slightly on offline, you know, that sort of thing. And in this case, I'm going to zoom in slightly. This is just so I can do the writing that I need to do. So I can see the www on this side. And so what I'm actually going to put here is I recently started penning myself as a creative preneur. So that's what I'm going to do. Creativepreneur, which is basically a creative entrepreneur. Creativepreneur, and then I'm going to do that. No, that, and author. That's it. Because creativepreneur kind of covers everything. And author simply because obviously I recently released a book, and that's the most recent big thing that I did. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the arrow keys to literally just stretch it out. Remember, I can't take it up or down because of the fact that Photoshop already told me that I'm already aligned in that aspect. So if I try to do that, you see what? It's offline. So on there, when I do that, Photoshop actually reassures me again that I'm on the same line. And so let's see, let me zoom out. And so now this is where I just go back and forth to try and see that I have actually got it correct. There we go. A bit of space in the middle is always good. That way it's not too busy. That way you know it's nice and neat. And if you're looking for a clean look, this is what I would recommend. There's some people who think adding loads and loads and loads. No. Don't add too much, because the last thing you need when people visit your social media platforms, you don't want them to feel discombobulated when they visit. They're like, oh my gosh, what is going on with that cover? And they're trying to figure out, they're literally trying to sieve their way through, trying to read what you're about and trying to find out what you do, that sort of thing. You want to avoid that at all costs. And so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm actually going to take the same wording, creativepreneur, that I wrote here. I'm actually going to do the same duplication. Again, clicking on the Alt key and then pressing hard on creativepreneur and sliding it upwards. That way it duplicates it. And as you can see, you can't see it obviously because it's white and it's against the white background, but that's fine. It's already duplicated. And then because it's still already selected, right? And as Photoshop always maintains the colors that you've been using, all I have to do again is just click on it, and there it is. It's made a reappearance. And now because it's still selected and I want to change the depth of the font, all I have to do, and this is where now I can use the side panel, because I haven't done the Control T to select the entire writing, I can just use the side panel to select the character panel, and then all the options to edit the wording actually comes up here. And if you want to always double check to see if you are actually trying to edit the correct writing or the correct layer, that sort of thing, always check your layer panel. You can always double check on your layer panel to see which one it is that's highlighted. As you can see, this one is obviously highlighted. Another thing that I tend to do when I'm really, really not certain is I use the eye icon in order to check for visibility. So I click on it to hide and show it up, as I'm like, okay, that actually gives me surety that I'm definitely clicked on the correct one that I'm about to edit. And so using the character panel, now I want to actually, the last one I used is Roman. Roman is more like the standard, it's like the standard font depth, but I want to make it smaller because I'm about to add the icons for the social media icons, right? And so that needs to be smaller. I can't have it being as thick as it is. It just won't look great. And so in this case, and this is why I love Helvetica and Montserrat, is because they've got the option for light. And some of them have got sometimes extra thin, that sort of thing. So you can have really skinny, really skinny fonts, they're on constant diet or something. But yeah, light is the one I'm going to be using. And so when I click on light, you can see it's going to be a lot thinner. But something else I'm also going to do is I am going to click out. Can you see here? I've got all caps selected. I'm going to take out all caps. As you can see, I used all lowercase for it, which is perfect because you know why? I'm going to select now small caps. That way it will be still in capital letters, but it's going to be smaller, which is what I'm looking for. And so this is basically where we are with this. Okay. Now, we haven't added the social media icons yet. This is just because I want to first place this one. Now, here's another thing before I actually proceed with that. Now, when you reach this stage, you've now got a number of layers, correct? And because you've got a number of layers going on, it's very, very easy to accidentally click on what you're not supposed to click click on, and then you have to click the backwards button so that you can, it can kind of fix what you've messed up and that sort of thing. Now, this is where you say, okay, what have I already added that I don't need to fix anymore? And that's literally where we are here. So in this particular situation, we've got the image, right, which is one of the first things that we started. The background, as you can see, is white, and if you can notice, the background has actually got a lock on it at the end here, and that's a good thing, because with the background having a lock on it, it means you can't edit it, you can't accidentally move it around or anything like that. And I want to do the same with everything else that I don't need to edit anymore. And so in this case, I'm going to just do a little bit of organizing, which is really, really helpful when you've got a lot of layers and you're adding more and more layers, which is what's going to happen when we add the icons and we create more layers of the writing for each social media platform. It's going to create additional layer after additional layer after additional layer, and I want to try and avoid that, avoid having to delete something by accident or rewrite something by accident. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the images first of all, select them all, and the images are all selected. With all the images selected, if you can see at the bottom of the layer panel, you've got the folder icon over here. On the folder icon, I'm going to click on it, which creates what you call a new group. And when it creates the new group, it groups all the images that I'm editing, whether I'm using them or not. It puts them into one group. And then when you double click on the word group one, it allows you to edit it. So in this case, I'm going to just type in Elaka because that's the image that's in there. So I'm going to type that in. And then also just another fancy thing that you can do. This is just an FYI. It's not a big deal. It's not a necessity. But it kind of helps in terms of visually being organized. You can right click and you can actually color it out. And so I'm going to make it blue. So you can see it's now got blue. So now I know that all the Elaka images are under the blue section, the blue layer. And additionally, because I'm done editing it as well, right, I am going to click the lock icon. That way it locks it off. That way, no matter what I do, if I try to move, nothing happens. If anything, it takes me to the rectangle, which is the layer right above it. And that's what we want to try and avoid, is basically moving anything that we're not supposed to. So which takes us to the next section. We've got this rectangle tool as well as that rectangle tool. And because they're both rectangle tools, I'm going to select them both. And again, like I did with the images, group them together and then double click. And then I'm just going to put rectangles. Okay. And again, that allows me to lock them out and also place the color, since I've already started that trend. I've put a red one next to it. Again, it just makes it look pretty, to be honest. It's not a necessity. But what is if you don't want to mess up, again, I'm going to lock it all. And then, which brings me to now the Creativepreneur and the elaka.co.uk. Again, I'm going to click on the elaka.co.uk. If it will let me, it's not clicking. Okay, the system is going a bit funny. Here we go. There we go. And then I'm going to click on that one as well and group them. And then I'm going to put lower third writing, because that's where they are, in a lower third kind of position. And then like I did with the previous one, I'm going to lock them out. So now it just leaves me with that one to work with. But also, if you noticed, the whole panel of layers now looks a lot neater, it looks a lot smarter, and it just makes it easier to kind of navigate better. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to color it, so I'm going to give it orange. Okay, so now we've kind of got that in place. I am going to try and see if I can find some social media icons. And I've got social media icons on my computer, but I'm going to use this opportunity to kind of show you how you can find your own and how to search for some that you can actually be able to use. And so I'm going to go here. I've already got the panels open so that when I'm placing them, I can show you what happens. The first one is always the hardest one to create because you want to get everything right. But after you get the Facebook one done, it's easier to get all the other ones done because the Facebook one technically has acted as a template, and the only difference that you have to make is resizing each one that follows in order to suit the platform that you're actually going to be placing it on. That's the only thing that's kind of different. So in this case, we want social media icons, right? So I'm going to start with by saying social media icons. Okay, just a Google search. Now it seems just a standard Google search. You go to the images, and so in my case, you see it's got the option where it shows you transparency as well. But also what I tend to do is I always click on tools whenever I'm searching for images, especially if I want them to be in high resolution. And when you click on tools, a menu comes up there, and you click on size and you click on large. That's what I tend to do. When you click on large, you've got a higher chance of finding or accessing a social media tool or icon that is a higher resolution, or an image for that matter, that you're looking for. So in this case, I am going to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Oh, I like these. Hang on, let's have a look. Okay, so ideally I want ones that have got a transparent background, but if they don't, I can actually fix that myself in Photoshop using the the magic eraser tool. So these are a possible option. But first, before I go even there and make it long-winded, I'm going to click on the one transparent that says transparent background. Now, a little trick that you need to know, whenever you see, before you click on an image, and you're doing a search for a transparent background image, if in the main window like this, it's already showing you the little transparency pixels, it's a very, very high chance that it's not transparent, because normally the transparency only shows up after you have actually clicked on the image. Let me show you. I could be wrong, but so far from my experience for years, it's been this way. So let me click on this Instagram one. Okay, just to show you what I mean. I'm going to save as. I'm hoping maybe it's showing and then it's going to show. But so far as I know, they tend to not be actually transparent as they claim to be. So you have to kind of be careful with that as well. Because the last thing you want is to download, only to find that you can actually kind of easily edit it or anything like that, you know. So let's go to, what am I editing? Okay, I'm editing for Ellarka. So I try to be as organized as I possibly can with my artwork. So I'm gonna create a new folder here, and I'm gonna put social media icons. And this one might seem like a brand new Ellarka folder, but that's because I've got a whole other Ellarka folder in another drive. It's just that this one is a new drive. Well, not really new anymore. So this is Instagram, right? Let me get rid of that writing icon. Okay. Okay, if you can see as it's downloading, it's saying it's registering as a JPEG, which means it's not a transparent image. Normally, a transparent image, first of all, not only should it not be a JPEG, but it has to be a PNG file. That's something that's really, really important to always note. It cannot, if it's a JPEG, know for a fact that it's not going to have a transparent background, and you are about to find out. Okay, so we've got social media icons over here. Right, you can see here. There you go. That shouldn't be showing. So normally when you click on something with transparency, this should not be showing when you even just preview it. And here's another way that you can be able to see. Let me find, for example, my Ellarka logo here, right? That one has got the white background. The one without the white background, can see it's got the transparency going on. So that's kind of the proof. So when you go and search for the images online, always be really careful of the ones that are already showing you that they are transparent when they're not. So let us, what is this thing trying to do? Okay, it's minimized. Okay, we're good. Okay, so now let us now get them individually. So because when you try to click, again, when you try to search social media icons, it will always try to bring them in unison. And you don't want them in unison like this. You want to get them individually, it's a lot easier to find them. So we're going to start with Instagram, since that's the one I'm looking at. So it's at the top of my mind. Instagram. What's Instagram? Instagram icon PNG. Yeah, that's another way I also tend to search. I tend to put the word PNG at the end. That way I've got a higher chance again of being guaranteed to actually get the Instagram PNG that I'm looking for. So in this case, let's have a look at this. There you go. You see what I mean? On here, it's not showing that it's transparent, but as I've clicked on it and it's appeared, that's when these have showed up, which means this one is likely to be a PNG file that I can actually use. And sometimes you find that the PNG files will not always work, because it depends if it's a copyrighted image or anything like that, if it's blocked from being edited and things like that. That tends to happen more often than you know. So now let's go to the next one, which is Facebook. Hey, hopefully. Okay. So the good thing is, I think the ones that I'm seeing right now that are appearing in front of me are all under Creative Commons. Creative Commons license is one where you can actually use something freely as long as you're not making people pay for it. Then you are free to actually use it under the Creative Commons license. So here's the Facebook icon. Again, you see the transparency has showed up around it. So which means I can actually be able to use this. So I can save that as well. Is it of the same style? Because I'm trying to go with the same style. If they're all going to be square, let them be square-ish. Okay, I think that is of a similar-ish style, I suppose, curved. Although I would have preferred if it was more like this. I don't know. I might be able to edit it myself, if truth be told, and make these more curved edges. Okay, so that's the Facebook one. And then the last but not least, obviously, is Twitter. Twitter. Okay. Twitter did not do me a solid like the way Facebook and Instagram did. But here's one that looks very similar. So let's see if the transparency shows up in the corners. Yes, it has. And so I can actually download this one as well. And when I add these to Photoshop, obviously they're going to come out really, really large. And then I'm going to have to resize them. But it's always better this way to have to make them smaller than having to make them bigger. Almost forgot about one more, of course. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Wait, why am I downloading? Oh, yes, Instagram, because I'm on Instagram. I was going to say I'm not changing Instagram. Yeah, that's because in Instagram, you don't need a cover. However, I will be giving an Instagram tutorial again at another date, because there's loads that you have to do, and I'll be slowly updating my platforms. So I'm going to be using my own platforms as examples on how to create certain things. So with Instagram, it's not necessarily a cover picture, but it's more about creating the story icons and things like that. And so I'm gonna give you a tutorial that kind of helps with that. So okay, so let's just do a tally here. We've got YouTube, which we're about to. We've already got Instagram. We've already got Facebook. We've already got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Now YouTube. Is there any other that I'm missing? My website, I don't need to, because of the fact that I actually put the URL in the thing. Oh, that does not look pretty. Let's rename that YouTube PNG. So it's within the same styling as well, which is great. And so depending on what type of shape icon that you are going for, make sure that you it's always good and advisable to stick to the same styling. So if you're going to go with all of them, like for example, they're all looking like round like this, make sure that every single one of the icons are actually round. If you're going to go with one that's going to be artsy, kind of like this, make sure all of them look kind of like that, you know. The last thing you want is to have like a YouTube icon that looks like this, and then an Instagram icon that looks round, and then a Facebook icon that looks square, you know. That is always terrible, terrible branding. Not that I really see anyone doing that, because I think that kind of goes without saying anyways, you know. So let us go back to here. And then what I'm actually going to do is artwork, scroll to the top, social media. Okay. I've got them all except for this one, which I don't need. So we're going to delete that one. Okay. So you can see all of them have got transparency to them, and you can see they're all looking pretty much of the same styling, which is always a fantastic look for your branding. And so I'm just going to slide them straight into Photoshop over here, and I'm going to click enter with each one. Just bear with me one moment. See, enter and enter. Enter. And we're done. Okay. Okay, sorry, just bear with me one moment. I just need to fix something really quickly. Okay. And now, as you can see, all of them are kind of set up almost identical in terms of shape size. So what I'm actually going to do is I have actually selected all of them at the same time. And whilst I have them all selected at the same time on the layers panel over here on my right, I'm now going to click Control and T. This is so that I can be able to actually resize them together and have them maintain the exact shape size, I suppose. And so now I'm using the Alt key. I'm clicking down on Alt, and then I'm literally like using the mouse selection tool to kind of reduce them in size. The Alt key normally helps you kind of maintain, not really maintain, but it helps you kind of bring it inwards rather than having to kind of only resize on this side and then go to that corner, resize that corner, and resize that corner, right? Resize that corner. It kind of helps out in that aspect. And so here now, because they're all selected at once, I can actually drag them to where I need them to be. And what I'm going to do is, just in case, I tend not to make everything lean directly to the edge. I tend to bring them in slightly. And in this case, I'm going to let them come as far as where the creativepreneur is. And we're going to work with that. So I'm going to use that as my, and then there we go. Okay, so that feels to me like they're still a little bit big. And so I'm going to, again, using the Alt key, make them a bit smaller, perhaps. Yeah, so I'm going to zoom in though. Again, this makes it a lot easier. There we go. Scroll that, put that here, and we're good. And so as you can see, the YouTube one is the one on the top. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select the Instagram one, the Twitter and the Facebook ones, and I'm going to leave the YouTube one alone. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys. And this is just so I don't misalign myself, and literally scroll down. And then I'm going to click in, selecting on the Control key or Command if you're using a Mac. I'm going to click on the Instagram one because it's the one that's visibly on the top of the other two. And that way I can deselect it. And then I'm only remaining with the Twitter and the Facebook. And then again, using the arrow keys, I scroll down. And then again, same method, deselect the Twitter because it's on top, and then scroll down on the Facebook one. Okay. And so here, sometimes you just have to use your eyesight in order to determine the spacing. In this case, I'm pretty certain I think that's a decent spacing. And so I'm going to bring that down here like this a little bit. And that way I've got my social media icons ready. Now, here's the thing. As much as I love the way it is like this, what is not completely sitting well with me is, in as much as I love to maintain the colors of the social media icons, I don't feel like I want them. And so in this case, this is what I tend to do. Here we go. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. I'm actually going to change their colors to match the entire branding that I have. But if you recall, when I go to Facebook, it actually doesn't have transparency on the F. And so I'm actually going to get rid of the F. That way it's completely transparent. As you can see, it's not allowing me to. And that's because the image has not been raster sized. Now, normally I would do the whole duplicate thing. But when it comes to social media icons, I'm hardly ever too fast because it's a simple, easy trick that I honestly don't expect anyone to make a mistake on this matter. And so I'm zooming in. And then I'm going to click on it, and it's going to ask me the smart object must be raster size because it's a smart object. So I click on OK or cancel. In this case, I want it raster size so I can do what I need to do with it. And I'm going to click OK. And this allows me to click on there, and that has actually made it transparent. And then I'm going to move to the next one because the Twitter icon is the same situation. Raster size, yes, please. There we go. That way, the little Twitter bird. Instagram, I actually don't need to, because it actually came with own transparency. If you recall, look back here, Instagram is already transparent. If it will let me, can you show up? Come on, this is supposed to be easy and quick. Thank you. As you can see, Instagram is already transparent, so I don't have to be fussing about that one. I've got nothing to worry about. So the next one is YouTube. YouTube, same situation. Click, yes, raster size. And as you can see, I went to the eraser tool and I clicked on the little corner on the side, and it brought up the option for me to select the magic eraser tool, which is what has allowed me to kind of just do a very quick deletion of the white sections that I don't need. And so in this particular situation, I'm going to actually select them all. And by how I'm able to select them all like this, let me do that again. Click on the first item or the first layer that you want to select, and make sure that all the layers that you want to select are next to each other. Don't have any layers in between that you don't want to select. Otherwise, it will select it as well. So when you click on it, press down on Shift, and then go to the last layer that you want to click on the list of layers that you want to select as a collective. And when you click that, whilst pressing the Shift key, it will select all the layers that you're trying to select, hence that being a much quicker method. And in this case, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to group them, obviously, like I did with the others, and I'm going to name it social icons, right? And then though, in this part, because I want to leave room to be able to edit them if the need arises, I am going to right click and duplicate the group. Okay, and again, you can duplicate the group in a very same way as you would duplicate individual layers, where you click on Alt and then slide upwards or downwards to duplicate it. But as you can see, I did it the other way around, where I right clicked, the menu came up, and then the option to duplicate the group came up, and I selected that. And the reason why I'm duplicating the group is, like I said, I want to have more flexibility if the need arises for me to decide that I want to change something or want to just edit them after all. So in this case, the reason why I had to duplicate it is because I'm about to change the format of this particular icon. So I'm going to again right click. And then when I right click on the duplicator group, I'm actually going to convert them to a smart object. So remember, originally they were a smart object and I had to rasterize them in order to edit them. And so now I'm converting them back to smart objects, but this time I'm not converting them back individually. They're actually going to be converted into one smart object. That way I can edit them all at once. Without having to do it individually. So convert to smart object. So that's been changed to smart object. Now, these are the ones on the other hand. I'm going to first of all recolor them, get the green. And then I'm going to put the lock on them because I don't need to edit them. And then I'm going to hide them because I don't need to see them. All I need is these ones here. And so now I'm going to click on these. And then this is where the recoloring now comes into play. I am actually going to create a new layer. And how I can do that, there's two ways I can be able to do that. You can right click, if I remember, because I normally always use the shortcut. I actually hardly ever use another way, if truth be told. So let's see if I can be able to show it to you in this way. Let's see, up, duplicate, no, it's not there. So it's either you go on layer at the top there, and then you click on new, and then new layer, and then a new layer will pop up. The other option is again on the layer panel right at the bottom there, and right next to the folder that I have been using to create each group it's got the option to create a new layer. And all you have to do is literally just click on it. When you click on it, it will create a new layer. And so here it's created a new layer, which is a blank layer where I can do whatever it is that I want with it. But in this case, what in fact I want to do with it is create the colors that will change all the icons into one monotonous color to suit the whole branding how I want it, right? But before I can do that, I want to show you what happens if I don't merge it in the right way. So for example, I want everything to be the same color as the branding color that I have created, right? So obviously using the paint bucket tool, and obviously having the color that I need already selected over there, I just literally anywhere on the screen or anywhere within the within the frame, click on there, and obviously it covers everything. And one would get in a panic and think, oh my gosh, what have I done? It's okay. You've created a new layer. So that paint that you've just painted all over the place is actually only gone on the one layer. And the point of this is that this is literally what happens when you paint an entire layer. But if you are aiming for a specific section that you want to paint only, this is why the transparency was important and why I was making sure each icon had its transparency. And so in this case, this is where we're going to create what we call a clipping mask. If anyone's never used that, we're going to create a clipping mask. Clipping mask is kind of like it wraps it around whatever it is that you want it wrapped around in order to kind of recreate the shape that it already has, but with the new color options that you have chosen or selected for yourself. And so this is where you can actually use the paint bucket tool. You've got the option of I'm going to quickly demonstrate for you. You can use the gradient tool. So the gradient tool is literally this. The gradient tool, you literally have to like create lines across, and it will literally create what it is that you are trying to make. Here I've got that one selected. Let me use this one there. And so the shorter you make it, the more bold it becomes. Or if you want them to be more like that, let me make it a bit wider. There, it gives you, these are the options that you get to basically have with the gradient tool. In this case, this is not what I'm going for. Although it'd be interesting, maybe, I don't know. Is this? No, this is EP Creative Media's colors, so I actually can't use them. The Alaka colors are, hang on. The gradient map for the Alaka colors are, is it this one? I don't know if I saved them, or maybe they're more visible in the other one. I don't know. I can't remember. But I know these are EP Creative Media. They're not for Alaka. And so in this case, I'm just going to go back a few times until I get back to the one. Okay. And so the clipping mask now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the selection tool. Again, remember, I always go back to that. That's my default option. And there are two ways to which you can create a clipping mask. You can either, again, the Alt key, because it's so trustworthy, click on the Alt key. And whilst you're pressing down on the Alt key, you just go right in between the icons or the item that it is that you're trying to clip through and the layer where the colors are, and click. And then, as you can see, they've all changed to match the rest of it. The other way to do this, I'm going to Control Z, which is obviously to go backwards, or Command Z if you're using a Mac. The other option is right click and then create click mask. Now, the place where you have to right click, always make sure that the layer that's going to basically be creating the color clip over the layer that you are actually trying to showcase, you always have to make sure that the layer on top is the one that you've selected, never the layer that you're trying to clip through, if that makes sense. And so right now I've got layer 2 selected. Right click on layer 2, and then all I have to do is go to create clipping mask, and it clips it right through to the icons. And as you can see now, they are all in the blue color. So if I, for example, hide that particular layer using the icon of there, you can still see the original colors are still showing. But when I click back, they're gone. And because obviously I wanted to match the rest of the branding, and this is literally how I am kind of keeping it. And so, which brings us back to the Creatorpreneur. But before I do that, because I don't want to move the icons, and obviously I've already done all the work with the clipping mask and changing and everything, and I don't want to mess this up. So I'm going to control click so I can select both of those parts of the layer. I'm going to group that. And with it grouped, again, social icons. Okay, icons 1, because it will tell me that that name already exists. And I'm going to color it as well because we're doing that as a trend. Violet, I suppose. And then I'm going to lock them in place. Locking them in place again stops me from having to mess around with it unnecessarily. And then I'm going to go back to the Creatorpreneur /author wording that I already duplicated from earlier on because I wanted to use it as a template to create what I need for the social media icons, right? So now that we've got that in place, I am going to place it right in front of there. So now, before I even write, what my socials are, I try to align them first, because remember, this is where a lot of duplicating is going to happen as well, because I want the font size to stay the same. And so in this case, I'm literally, again, like I did before, Alt, and clicking on the wording and slide down. That way I can actually see what I'm doing a lot clearer. There we go. Okay, that seems fine. Let it go. And then repeat the process until you get all of them done. And the good thing about Photoshop, as you can see, it's telling me how much width I've got in between them, which also helps me maintain the equal width between each line. It's kind of good like that. And the next one. Okay, as you can see, it's measuring for me. It's helping me align this perfectly. And now I've got them all in place the way I need them all in place. And in this particular situation, now this is where now I can now edit what I need to edit. And this is actually the final part. Like, this is it. So if you're editing this yourself, just put this into consideration. I've been on this live for 1 hour and 17 minutes, right? And because I'm doing it in a tutorial type of way, it's taken slightly longer. So realistically, when you are trying to create your social media cover art, it shouldn't take you more than 1 hour. It should be 1 hour or even less, depending on how fast your system is. It's really a quick process if you know what you're doing, you know exactly what keys to press, that sort of thing. It's not too tough. And so in this case, I'm not going to go as far as saying www. I'm just going to put the /. And then for YouTube, I am actually Alaka TV. And because I selected the lowercase, right, the lower uppercase, the small uppercase, it's able to kind of depict it the way I actually want them to be. So in this case, the only thing that I have to do is either using the arrow key to move that across, if it will let me. Okay, here we go. Gonna put that there like that. And then literally, I don't even have to go and click on the other layer on the layer panel. As long as I've got the character tool selected, because they're all characters and none of them are locked off, all I have to do is click in between any of the writing and it automatically takes me to the next layer that I need to edit. And then on Instagram, I am official Alaka. Okay, again, let me not forget that /. The reason why I'm adding the / is because when someone is typing www.instagram.com/, that's the /. I tend to prefer it. It's up to individuals on what they want to do in that aspect. You can actually have it without the /. You can have it with, you can have the full URL if you want. Although personally, I feel putting the full URL makes it a bit too busy. It makes it messy, and you want to kind of try and avoid that by all means, to be honest. The more clean your cover art is, the better it is for your platform. The more professional it comes across as well. It's just better for branding overall. It just makes your aesthetics so much better. And then on my Twitter, I'm actually Elaka. And the funny thing is, my Twitter, the annoying thing, should I say, I don't know if it's so funny, is that Twitter was the only place I could actually find Elaka. And so it's annoying. And at one point, I think I tried to see if I could get it to be either official Elaka or Elaka official, and it wouldn't let me because it was too long. So Twitter is kind of annoying in the sense that the length of your username is limited, but at the same time, it's the only one that was actually able to give me Elaka without any complications. My YouTube channel, the trend at the time of me creating my YouTube channel was everybody creating YouTube channels and calling them whatever name it is plus TV, plus TV, plus TV. And that was the time when YouTube actually allowed people to create custom URLs. So the disadvantage is I'm stuck with the TV at the end of my URL, but the advantage is I actually have a custom URL for my YouTube channel. I don't have to worry about so any new YouTube channels that I have now that I've been creating for the last couple of years or so are the ones that are going to have this annoying, complicated name, and people constantly have to actually search for your channel in order to find it, as opposed to simply typing it in. And I am one of the very, very fortunate people in the sense that Elaka is a very short name, and just add TV to it, and you can literally just go to youtube.com/Elaka TV, and you actually find my channel. That actually makes me smile a little bit, and I'm very fortunate with my magazine YouTube channel. Is the same. I was able to get a custom name because of the time that I created it, and the same with the Zambia Music Charts. When I first created that, I was able to get a custom URL, so it's got a custom URL as well. But the new channels, I suppose maybe YouTube didn't want to have to go through the process of vetting or whatever. I really don't know, and they kind of took that away, which personally I think makes no sense, because if Twitter, Facebook, even Twitch allows you to create your own custom URL. Why did YouTube feel the need to get rid of theirs when they have loads of people constantly going on YouTube and they're making loads of money through YouTube? Why take away the option of a custom URL? Or do you have to be a certain level, because they've created all these ridiculous tiers on having people qualify to a certain level in order for them to have a custom monetization, that sort of thing. So I don't know if they've applied the same rules to their custom URLs as well. I'm not sure. So let me just check. With this one, I think at the time when I created Elaka official, I'm not sure if I couldn't find official Elaka, or it's because I had Elaka official and I couldn't find official Elaka on Instagram, because Instagram came after. Because I first had Twitter and YouTube, and then they introduced Facebook pages, and then they introduced Facebook custom URLs, and then that came, and then the last one actually that came along in regards to the Elaka brand, that is, was Instagram. And so that's why I hate the fact that it's like this, because I would rather it was all official Elaka, or just Elaka, or Elaka official. But I think because of the years that everything came in, I had to go with what I had to go with. But the fortunate part I have is that because of the length of time I think I've had a number of these platforms, it does make it easier to be Googled and to find my brand in that way, which is brilliant. And so, yeah, as you can see, that's pretty much it. I've kept it really simple. Let me just double check this. It's feeling a little bit, I'm not sure if I'm completely satisfied with this. Okay, so now I'm gonna quickly hide the icons, the wording. Just gonna group them up and call them socials wording. That way I know what they are. Okay, so they're good because they're part of the socials thing anyway, so I'm okay with that being green. And then I'm gonna go to Elaka. I'm gonna unlock it because I want to just edit this image slightly. This is annoying me. I don't like that one single bit. And so I'm just going to quickly fix that. And this is what you can do as well. Like once you've done everything, you've got the option to start fixing what you need to fix. I'm just going to double check to see it is the harding. Okay. Let me, I think, why is it feeling like, what's the opacity? Oh, it's 100%. It doesn't feel like it, which is so weird. Smoothing, maybe I need that to be 100% as well. Okay, because I don't like this. I don't like the fact that it feels like, I found it a little bit too rigid, and that makes me feel so uncomfortable. So greatly uncomfortable. Okay, so what time are we looking at? It's 25 past. Okay, so let's try and see if we can wrap this up within the next 15 minutes or so. Because I don't want this tutorial to take too long. I mean, generally, live tutorials will take long. If it was not a live tutorial, I would have probably been able to have speed through it whilst talking over it, like giving like a voiceover work. I think this is slightly better. But something else, you can see, right? The edges are a bit rough. That's a problem. So this is where you have to go to the smooth tool. The smoothing tool is literally just under the paint bucket tool. You click on that. When you click on the little arrow, it's got the blurry tool, sharpen tool, smudging tool. We want the blurry tool. And the idea is just to smooth out the edges that we had actually cut out from the background. Let's check normal. Okay, this is good. I'm just going to make it smaller. And for now, I'm going to do it whilst it's zoomed out because of the simple fact that I don't want to go too in. Yeah, I actually prefer that. I prefer that. I don't want to, the reason why I did like this, because like I said, I didn't want to go too in. Let me make the hardness harder, because then it doesn't infiltrate where I don't need it to infiltrate, to be honest. Yeah, I much prefer this. But you have to be very, very careful to keep to the actual edges, because if you go too in on the image itself, you find that you make the image a little bit too blurry, and then it loses its naturalness about it. But I didn't like the fact that it looked a little bit too raggedy. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, I'm not sure. It's now feeling a bit cheap. I don't know. I could. I don't know. I'm gonna try something else real quick. And this is where you might find yourself like fidgeting a lot. You can notice I've just duplicated the layer. That's because what I'm about to do, just in case it doesn't work, I can literally just revert back to the other one. Okay, the blending option, I right clicked and then the menu came up, and blending options is always at the very, very top. This is the one that you can add like outlines on images and things like that. So I'm going to add a stroke to it. As you can see, I've got the white stroke, which is what I used earlier on, and it's actually already applied it, I think. I'm not so sure. Has it? Hang on. I think it's already applied it, but because, interesting, hang on. Are you sure I applied it? Yeah, it's applied it, but it doesn't seem to be making a difference. Hang on, let me cancel. Let's see if I see any difference. Yeah, it did nothing. So I was testing out to see if it works. But you know what? This is actually not okay. But what I'm going to do really quickly, I know I'm being fussy. What I'm going to do really quickly, because of the way the blurriness, if you can see when I zoom in, I'm going to use the eraser tool to get rid of some of the additional blurriness that I don't need. As you can see, it's kind of going over it and making it smoother, rather than having it like look really super rough. I'm trying to avoid that. So again, you have to be careful, and you do have to have a steady hand. If you don't have a steady hand, I would do like, I would recommend do it bit by bit and let go, do a little bit, let go, do a little bit, let go. That way you don't mess up, because the thing is, when you mess up one and you click back and you've come a long way, it will basically undo an entire section that you have done, and then you're going to have to start again from the top. And trust me, when I was learning Photoshop, I would be in almost tears where I did not know that if I did like an eraser, or I drew something and it was a consistent line and I did it for so long, and then I made a mistake after like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of trying to draw this thing, and then I clicked back, right, to go backwards, that it starts me from the top. So if you don't have a steady hand, I would say do a little bit, stop, continue, a little bit, stop, and then continue a little bit, and then stop. That way, if you make a mistake, it won't take you too far backwards, in order for you to kind of catch up with yourself, basically. As you can see, this is definitely better. There we go. Now I'm happy. So yeah, it's a lot of fussing that you might have to do with your imaging here and there, but I would recommend trying not to do too much, to mess it up. Keep it simple, keep it clear. So for me, this is what I'm going to be updating maybe when I have a new photo shoot, that sort of thing. And like I said, because I like to try and stay true to myself, I chose an image that was the most recent image that I took. Now, this is not as recent as even 2 or 3, 4 months ago. It was some months ago. But at least it's less than a year old. You know what I mean? It's less than a year old. And that way it's kind of like reflecting the true likeness of what I'm looking at today. So I think that's really, really important, because if I was to put a picture of like many, many, many years ago, people, oh my gosh, your waist is so snatched. Oh, look at you looking like a snack, whatever. But like, I never look like that anymore. Every 7 years, our bodies change. And the fact that the images that are on my social media right now are over 7 years old, which means my body is actually not what it was then. I'm hoping it still looks decent, but it's definitely not what it was then. Creativepreneur. Let me just check the spelling. Creativepreneur, author. That's another thing as well. Always make sure that the spelling. Okay, I'm happy with that. And so now I'm actually going to save this file really quickly, because bear in mind, remember, this is the Facebook. This is the Facebook. Okay, this is not the folder that we are looking for. Let's go to Alaka. This is the Facebook cover. Social media. Might as well come in here then. Okay, Facebook cover art. And the reason why I'm saving it as a Facebook cover art Photoshop document is because when I change it to be compatible, when I resize it for Twitter, and when I resize it for YouTube as well, I'm actually going to save those individually as well. And that's what I would recommend that you do as well. The reason being is that it saves you having to go back and forth and crop it and resize, because that is another nightmare that you do not want to deal with. And the order that I tend to work in this particular instance is I do Facebook first, and then Twitter, because Facebook and Twitter, the sizes are not too far different from each other. And then I do YouTube last. And the reason why I do YouTube last is because YouTube is a lot larger. However, not only is it a lot larger in terms of like the specs, but it's very bizarre how YouTube have you design your cover art, because it tells you to make it this big, this massive size. But when you place it, you actually still have to place your artwork in a specific position within that massive canvas. It's so bizarre, but you're going to see that in a moment as we hopefully wrap this up. But the other processes that are going to come, they're going to be really quickly, because it's literally just about resizing, because we've gone through everything I think that you need to know, all the hotkeys that you need to know, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, so let us export this. Now, when exporting it, I tend to use the very basic export, and you go to Save for Web Legacy. That's the one that I use. And this one allows you to, thank you, Anika. This one actually allows you to be able to export your image as a JPEG image, or as a PNG image. So if you are creating a PNG image, you want a transparency for something, and this is how you can also export a GIF, by the way. I've created a couple of GIFs, but it's always a process that I always have to go back to a tutorial to remember what it is I'm doing again, because I can never really remember the hotkeys for preparing a GIF. But yeah, you can export it as a GIF, you can export it as a PNG. The option for a GIF should be up here. Yeah, here we go. So you can export as a GIF, JPEG, or PNG image. In this particular situation, we don't need a GIF or a PNG, so it's simply going to be a JPEG. So we're going to export that. And okay, are we in the right place? Yes, we are. Facebook cover art JPEG. No, actually, no. This is the wrong folder because I created an additional one, didn't I? Let's go back to artwork. There we go. Okay, we're going to save that here. Okay, and just so you can see how that actually looks, I am actually going to go to Facebook and show you. So this is the cover art that I have. So switch back to your view. Sorry, I had switched back to view as a visitor because I was taking screenshots to create the thumbnail. The process of it, hey, to be a creative, it can be quite a bit of work. Go back, switch back. Why is it not switch back? Oh, look, you see, I messed up. My Facebook is actually the official Elaka, so which means I have to actually change this. Did I lock it off? Noted writing, social wording. No, I haven't. Okay. That was a close one. It's a good thing I started with Facebook, the official Elaka. So which means I have to now move this one to the side. Wait, is it the official Elaka? Yeah, so it wasn't far off from, hang on. The official Elaka, not the Elaka. Oh my gosh, I actually don't know my own brand. How terrible. Let's see. Okay. The official. So that's good. So it kind of sort of matches. The only difference is got the word B at the beginning. So let me just make sure that this is zoom in. Okay, it doesn't feel like it's aligned with the others. Ah, don't you mess me about. There we go. Okay, now it's aligned. Okay, the good thing is not a major mistake. Thank you, Jesus. Can you save? Are you done saving? Okay, now we can export. So just a matter of re-exporting it. Again, same process. And whilst it's doing that, I'm just going to check to see if the Facebook has actually loaded. Has it loaded? No? Goodness sake. Okay. Let me... fine. Yeah, I've got several. I was about to say live. Who's live on my channel? Duh, you are live on your channel. Oh my gosh. So we've got the option to now change the cover image. So I'm not going to go back to Photoshop. It should be ready for me to save. Yeah. And this is the type of thing that I do to save time when I know that something is taking long and I've got another thing that I just set up one side and I continue. So I'm just going to replace the one that I saved previously. It's going to tell me if I want to replace it. Yes, replace it, and that should be done. And so now when we go back to Photoshop, to Facebook, upload photo or video, we want to upload a photo. And that's another nice thing about Facebook. It actually allows you to actually place a promo video. So if you've got something that you're promoting or stuff like that, you can actually temporarily replace it with that video as opposed to your cover art. And then when you're done promoting the particular item, you can actually change it back. So that option is actually a pretty cool option about Facebook. And so we're going to take that and voila. As you can see, it literally fits perfectly. So we're going to save that over here. And just like that, the Elaka Facebook page has got a new piece of cover art. And now let's work on the others. So now that we've seen that it's fine, everything is good, it looks decent, I'm not fussy about it being any extra. I kind of like the way it is. we move right along. And so now this is where we're going to make sure okay, save is fine. But now, because we're about to do the next one, right, I'm going to go to save as you can see, it won't even let me save it twice because it's already saved. So now I'm going to go to save as. When I go to save as, this will allow me to change the name from Facebook cover art to Twitter cover art. That way, when I make any changes, it's not going to change the previous one that I've already edited. The other one stays intact, exactly how I need it to be. And okay. And then I'm going to quickly go here. I'm just searching on my other browser, Twitter cover art specs. And Twitter cover art specs, the best cover photo size is 1,500 by 500 pixels. So in this particular case, 1.5 by 500, right? And so what we do in this particular situation, you have to go to, hang on, let me close that real quickly. Close, thank you. I'm gonna lock everything in place because everything is locked in. I'm just gonna lock everything in place. That way, if anything moves, it all moves in unison. Again, I try to avoid any unnecessary changes. So Control S for save. That's another shortcut way. If you've already saved the name, you just Control S every time. And it's always advisable to kind of save as much as possible as you go through the process in case anything goes wrong. Because sometimes you find that the software fails and then it shuts down. And if you hadn't made any saves in a really, really long time, you would have lost a whole bunch of work. So every so often, it is advisable that you click Control S every so often that it does save it. And I don't know if Photoshop has got an auto save option. But I know when I'm doing like editing videos and stuff like that in Premiere Pro, I set it up so that it has autosave. So every so often, even if I am so busy with editing that I forgot to save, it actually doesn't autosave, so that if anything happens and it shuts down automatically, I'm able to actually retrieve my saved work. So here, what we're going to do now, in order to change the specs, right, to suit Twitter this time, is you have to go to layer. Is it layer? Sorry. You go to image, and then on image, you have to go to canvas size, not to be mistaken with image size. Image size literally just changes the image within the actual template, but you want the canvas size because you're changing the whole thing. So canvas size, and then here you'll see right now it's telling us that it's 820 pixels by 312 pixels. And so we want to try and change that. And if you've got relative, whatever how it's pronounced, if you've got that selected, make sure you deselect it, because it will affect the size, because whatever you put there will always affect at the bottom automatically without you having control of the height or the width, or vice versa, you know. So make sure that it's not selected. And then in this case, I say when I checked, it said 1,500 by 500. So that's a width of 1,500 and a height of 500 for Twitter. So which makes Twitter's banner art actually larger than Facebook's. There you go. So now, using the Alt key, because obviously it's gone all the way to the edges, I'm going to use the Alt key to scroll backwards so I can zoom out. Let's see how far this goes. It's also a lot more stretched out in the sides, if you've noticed. Now, this is where I'm actually going to unlock all the ones that I need. Remember, the other social icons which are hidden, I don't need them, so I'm not going to bother unlocking them. And then I'm going to select them. So using the control, whilst pressing the control key, I'm actually selecting all the sections. And then I'm going to, have you noticed something else as well? Hang on, let me unselect everything. Come on, go. Oh my gosh, what did I just do? Yeah, it did something. Okay, so if you've noticed something, the background, because the background, when I resized it, it's clear, it's gray, it's grayed off. So which means it's actually technically transparent. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to have to, I've got no choice but to unlock the background, because I have to make sure the entire background is white, just like the initial artwork. And if you notice, I've already clicked on the paint bucket, but I haven't selected the color. So this is where you've got two options that you can actually also use. A trick I didn't show you earlier on. You can either click on there and then to create the whole white, or if you want to make sure that you're getting the exact match of the other background that you want to spread out to the rest of the area, again, using the Alt key. Okay, and make sure whenever you click on the Alt key, make sure that you click on the Alt key that's on the left-hand side of the spacebar, not the one on the right-hand side of the spacebar, because it's got slightly different functionality. So that's a very, very important tip. So pressing on the Alt key on this section that I want to take the color, again, using the eyedrop, it selects it, and it takes me to the white. As you can see, that automatically changed on the side there. And then when I let go of the Alt key, you can see the paint bucket tool again. And all I have to do is click, and voila. And then I can actually relock the background. Now, obviously, it's been changed to layer, but I can actually rename it and rename it back to background so that I don't confuse myself. There you go. And so now I'm going to go back to what I was doing before I noticed that the background had not filled up the entire space. So Control, whilst holding down the Control key, I'm selecting all the layers that I need to resize, basically, because that's what I'm about to do. So now after that, I'm going to press Control T, the selection, and then using the Alt key again, right? And whilst holding down on the mouse, I am going to just push it out. Push it out, push it out. And as you can see, because they are different, if you remember, they're not the same. Okay, this is where I find myself. Now I'm gonna accept that and see where that has taken me. I'm okay with that because this is what I'm gonna do next. Now, because my image, I have to be very, very careful not to skew my face. Right now, it's kind of maintained the way it was, right? And that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on all the Ellarca images, right? And then whilst it's clicked on, without clicking anything, make sure that you've closed the folder. And whilst it's clicked on without the Control T option or anything like that, literally using the arrow keys only, slide it. You might have to have a little bit of patience. In this instance, as you can see, it's like going really slowly. Let's go. Okay, I've got it to the end that I need it to be, and that's brilliant. And then the next thing that I'm going to work on is the frame. So the rectangle frames, what I'm actually going to do in this case, I'm going to do Control T, because I'm going to stretch them to the end there, and I'm going to stretch that one to the end over this side. And then this one, I'm actually going to stretch it down like this. As you can see, it's kind of realigned itself. It's not aligned anymore the way it was, right? And that's fine. Again, just click on the lower third writing, and again, without clicking anything else, because the group is actually closed, the folder is closed, so it selected all of them automatically. Using the arrow keys, literally just take it down. And then in terms of the positioning of the writing, I'm actually going to leave it exactly where it is. I don't need to do anything in that aspect. And then the social writing, as well as the social icons, I'm going to select them both using the Control Select, and then I'm going to just let them come down a little bit. Now, in regards to pushing them to the end, I'm not going to do that because of the way the interface for Twitter is. I want to be able to have the room for that. And so I'm actually okay with it being like this. I mean, I could make them bigger, although I don't know if I want to, because again, I want it to look clean and I don't want too much of the space to be taken. So that's literally Twitter done. And so again, File, Save, or Control S to save it. I'm just waiting. As you can see, you can actually watch the save when it's saving here. Saving 0%, 99%, and it's done. Normally, when you haven't saved your work, it always has an asterisk right at the top there. You always see an asterisk at the top there when your work has not been saved. And so if you ever want to know whether you've saved your work or not, always look at the top here. It will show an asterisk. Then you're, oh, actually, I have to do another save. Just do the quick Control S. It will save it quickly, and then you just carry on with the work. And so now we're going to export it like we did the previous one, and export web legacy. And then we're going to place it on Twitter, and then Twitter will be done. And like I said, this other part of it, the process is a lot quicker. It's always the first part of it when you're actually putting everything in place that takes long. But otherwise, afterwards, especially if it's your first time doing it, like for me, because it was such a long time since I created cover art for my platform, I had to start from scratch. Had I actually had updated like maybe 2-3 years ago, I would have had already the templates. And so that's another reason why I am saving them like separately. Normally, if I was using Illustrator, for example, Illustrator makes it very, very easy to have, I keep forgetting, not layers. It will come to me. Hang on. Is it file, new, image? Hang on, let me see if I can find, maybe the wording is here. It's not layer, but it's not even a canvas either. It's funny, I'm forgetting the word, but there's another like section that you can use. Whereas like in Illustrator, I use this a lot, where I have all these different sections, and I actually can create different. Gosh, the name has completely escaped my brain. But you can have different sections and you can be able to create this. But the reason why I prefer to use Photoshop for this particular process, especially if I'm going to be using like an image, is because I've got the option to edit the image however I need to edit it. It's easier to get rid of the background and stuff like that. And you can do all those certain a number of those things in Illustrator, but it's not as flexible as it is in Photoshop. Although Illustrator is fantastic if you're creating a logo, and we might actually do a tutorial on creating logos at some point as well. So now we're going to go back to the browser so that we can now go to Twitter. Okay, as you can see, this is the image that I've got all across. Like it's the same image on my, hang on, if I can take it here, your channel. See, it's literally the same image on my YouTube channel and everything. So it's the same image on my Twitter. So this is an image from many, many, many years ago. So it's time to have an update. Even this picture is more recent than this one. So, okay, now where's the Twitter one? That one. And then let's place it, and hopefully, there you go. So again, you don't have to do any resizing or anything like that. All you have to do is click apply and save. And your Twitter is, bam, ready. Now, as you can see, can you see how the profile picture is slightly covering that? This is where now I can actually go back into Photoshop right over here. And because I've still got them selected, I can actually move them up. Now that I know, I can actually do that. Save it again. And this is another reason why Cleaner is better, because then if something is blocking certain information that you want the public to see, you can actually go back into the drawing board and actually fix something really, really quickly, and then you're good to go. Like this process, very quick, very easy. It's not too much of a fuss, you know. So I'm literally just replacing the image, replace it, and done. And so now when I go back to Twitter, I have to just edit profile and then change the cover image. And because I've replaced the previous one, it's going to be nice and quick and easy. And then now when I save it and I look at it in the view, voila. So people can easily see all my other socials when they come and visit my profile. Now, obviously, something else that's covered is Creativepreneur. Now, do I want to change that? Because I'm fussy. Yes. I am actually going to do that. So, which means I have to move this further this way. And then not that, I mean, for Twitter, because with Twitter, like the links are easy to access in a similar way that you can access them on Instagram. So having elaka.co.uk on there is okay, I suppose, in terms of aesthetics. But because of the way Twitter works, the website is there in the bio anyway, so it's easy for people to actually find it regardless. So let me just go back really quickly and have a look. And this is what I tend to do. So the R was the one that was covered, and it's right underneath the C. So when I go back here, the C, which means that's fine. So this is now the second time, or should technically the third time I'm having to export this, but third time's a charm. But again, expect this kind of process. Sometimes it doesn't always go to plan the first time round. But again, once you've got the formatting right and you've got everything kind of in place roughly, honestly, the rest of it is easy. It's not too taxing. I mean, having to go through this process, I'm doing it the third time. Again, because I'm busy chatting and stuff like that, normally it would be like, okay, good, no, it didn't work. I go back really quickly. I export, didn't work. I go back really quickly. I export, and then I'm done. And so in this case, let me go back to Twitter, edit profile, and edit. There we go. And this one now should work perfectly fine. I should have actually paid attention to the fact that the Creativepreneur was actually being blocked the first time around. Then I wouldn't have had to export it 3 times. But that's where attention to detail comes in. There you go. And now you can see that wording really clearly. You can see that really clearly, and it looks nice and professional. And so now, last but not least, we are going to do Twitter. And so, remember what I said earlier, like always look for the asterisk. The asterisk is an indication that the work needs saving. And so Control S, let's save that, get that out of the way. So that's done. And so now I'm going to save it as, because I'm preparing it for YouTube. And so now, if we will do it. Okay, so we had Twitter cover art. We're going to change it now to YouTube cover art. And is it done? Okay, it's almost saving. And whilst it's saving on that side, I'm just going to check on the browser, YouTube cover art specs. The YouTube cover art specs is actually 2,560 pixels by 1,440. Why they need it to be so big to date, honestly, it still baffles me. I've never understood that about YouTube. They're so weird. I'm just going to click on the background. And again, you know what? I'm actually going to unlock the background, but I'm going to lock everything else. Although I don't think the background will, in fact, move with it. But let's just see. I'm just testing out to see if it will. I don't know. Again, the same thing like I did in the Twitter one when I was changing it from Facebook to Twitter. You go to image, and then you click on canvas size. And then on canvas size, this is where you have to add in. And in this case, we are looking at the width of what, 2,560 pixels. And like I said, if this is selected, relative is selected, make sure it's deselected. Otherwise, it will get in the way of you actually being able to input the height size and the width size independently. And so in this case, we're going to change that to 2,560. And then the height is 1,440. This is a lot larger, and these are the requirements for YouTube. It's so weird. And again, my little trusted Alt key that I'm going to use, click on Alt, and then using the mouse key and scrolling backwards, you zoom out. and then that brings it back into the picture. Actually, another thing that you can actually do, I found this out like a few months ago by accident. So I'm going to like, if I want to kind of like get it to center again, sometimes you can just click on it like this. Remember, what would I do? It's like I found myself, I clicked on something. Hang on, let me deselect that. If it'll let me. Oh, someone's being fussy. Here, let me do this. Okay, if I like this, I don't know why it's not doing it. But anyways, it's funny, the trick didn't work. But what it would do, what are you doing? Okay, basically what it's trying to tell me, sometimes when you double click, hey, Princess AGTV, sometimes what it's basically trying to tell me is sometimes when you double click and you are trying to, when you double click, it actually gives you the layer options. And so that's another way you can get the layer options. Like I said, you remember before I mentioned that when you right click, the blending options, the blending options come up in order to allow you to have like a an outline, and in terms of having fancy font and things like that, it actually gives you that option. I know there's some people who love the psychedelics and things like that, and this all depends on the type of channel that you have and what you want people to, the type of people you want to attract to come to your channel. And so like for mine, it's just that I went for the simple one. I could actually show you really quickly. Hang on. Let's go back to the wording. I'm going to lock Elaka so that I do not edit her. I'm going to pick that one. Of course, everything is locked off. Hang on, social wording, lower third ones. You see, and this is the reason why when I showed you how to organize everything, this is the reason why I had to organize it like this. And I was showing you how to color code it and put them all in their individual folders. It just makes it easy to find what it is that you want to work on, what it is that you want to change when you need it. And so because the lower third that I'm looking for, I was able to find it easily. And the color coding is just something pretty to look at, to be honest. I can just click on that. I unlocked it so that I can actually be able to edit it now again. And when you just click the arrow, it opens up the folder and it allows me to go to the particular item that I want to edit. And in this particular instance, it's creativepreneur/author, right? And I'm going to duplicate it because obviously I'm trying to use it as a demonstration because I don't want to mess it up. So I'm doing what I did before. I'm clicking on the Alt key, and whilst it's selected, I've clicked on Alt key first and then select on it and then move it upwards or backwards, and it's duplicated. So you've got your duplicated version of that particular wording or characters, should I say. So I'm going to move it up. Obviously, because it's white, it won't show. So again, when you've got something selected on this end, especially like writing and things like that, if you've got it selected without the Control T, which selects the whole, which allows you to kind of like, you can't see in the chat. Oh my god, I think there must be definitely something wrong with YouTube, right? Let me put it up so as Princess AG can see. There definitely must be something wrong with YouTube. Remember, it did that to us with Glock just last night, or this morning. I'm losing track of the days. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. YouTube is weird. YouTube is being weird. I don't know what they're changing. There's something really wrong. I don't know what's going on. Right? I don't know. It's so strange. And you know, the funny thing is, I went back and I rewatched Glock's live because I was looking for something that was discussed. And it has, it has the, I think, 2 options for the live chat where it has like the top chat and then or all chats. When I activated all chats, I could see Michelle's again on the live chat. So it's so weird, You're right. You did what I did. You had to hit the triangle next to the word. Right. It's so bizarre. It is so bizarre. But okay, so what I was trying to change the color. So once you've got it clicked and you don't have Control T selected around the wording, it actually gives you the option to easily recolor it depending on the colors that you recently used, but also the color panel, if you've got it available on the side, you can actually go through it and pick whatever colors that you want. I tend not to mess with it a lot because of the simple fact that I just look for my own colors. I love using the I love using the color wheel and just finding my colors that I want to use, how I want to use them, you know, that sort of thing. So I tend not to really fuss about with all the other RGB, CMYK, although CMYK is always good, FYI, if you want to have merchandise printed and things like that. And you want, even when I like did my book, it had to be CMYK color for the cover and stuff like that, because CMYK is what is utilized for printing items, because it allows for a better quality printing of items. I don't know who made those rules, but it seems that's what it is. So I'm going to change that now to my brand colors so that it can reappear. There it is. And so now the thing that it was trying to do when I double click, is it going to bring it up? No. When I double click, it allows me to edit the text, because it doesn't do it for the text. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go on blending options. And so again, I'm only doing this specifically for the demonstration for people who love to experiment with their fonts and things like that. Hang on, let me cancel that so I can move it to the side. I'm going to zoom in and move it to this side so I can move this fella over here. That way you can see it more clearly, because that thing is going to be in the way. Okay, hopefully that should work. Right click, blending options. If it will pop up today. Thank you. Okay, so with the blending options, it's got all this where you can add a bevel, emboss, contour, texture, stroke, inner shadow, inner glow, pattern overlay, outer glow, drop shadow. But if you want something really quick, you can actually find some presets. With all the updates that Photoshop has been doing, they have gotten rid of a lot of the old presets, which to me sucks. So I actually scoured the internet some months ago to find the old presets that I used to use. Not that I used all of them, but they come in handy depending on what it is that I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to create like a certain design for a t-shirt and stuff like that, these presets come in very, very handy, because they literally narrowed it down to basic, natural, which is very minimal, fur, again minimal, fabric, which was minimal as well, and abstract. This is literally what they left you with. So I went and found the other ones from before, which is literally loads of them. So these are amongst the many that Photoshop used to have available to everyone when they use, okay, this thing is just scrolling on its own at this point. I'm literally not touching it. Who is scrolling? Has it stopped? Okay, good. And so it just allows you to create stuff like this. As you can see, you can see the font is changing. Let me find another that's more beveled. Can we find a more beveled one? Oh, what happened? Did it? Oh, it scrolled what it was not supposed to scroll. There you go, stuff like that. And then you can actually just, when you've got a bevel like this, obviously you find that maybe the stroke is too big, and then you have to kind of edit the stroke afterwards. There you go, things like this. So loads of different things that you can be able to do, fun things. So it depends on the type of channel that you're creating, the type of content that you're putting out there, the type of design overall that you are trying to go with, that you can be able to kind of use this particular tool for that. I tend to use it a lot just specifically for the stroke, especially when I'm doing like a thumbnail for a new video and things like that. I tend to use it for the stroke for that, because it's always, the stroke just helps you make the writing stand out a bit more. Like, for example, if it's a red, you do the white outline, that tends to make it stand out a little bit more for more people to kind of come to the channel and click, basically. So I'm going to cancel that. That should be back, and I'm going to delete that because I don't need it. I was just using it as an example. But yeah, that's kind of like a little quick side tutorial on the blending option. So we're going to go back to what we were doing, which was basically resizing this so that it fits on YouTube, because this is the last cover art that we're doing. We've already done Facebook, we've already done Twitter. So now we're on YouTube. Now, this is where YouTube can be very annoying. I mentioned that earlier. So I'm going to lock this off for now, because I want to go to the background. That way I can be able to make, as you can see these boxes around, it's transparent. So we want to make it all white so that it can suit the rest of it. And again, like before, I've clicked on the paint bucket tool, clicking on the Alt key, when you click on the Alt key whilst you've got either the paint bucket selected or you've got the paintbrush selected, it always brings up the eyedrop tool. And then when you're using the eyedrop tool, click on there, and then you've got the white. It's selected the color that you have, and then you can click on the rest of the background, and everything is whitened out, and your whole background is actually now in unison. Now, in this particular instance, I'm actually going to leave this as is, and you will find out why. And this is where YouTube irks me, because it gives you this massive specifications on how the size has to be. However, you have to leave your content within a certain vicinity within that particular box, which is bizarre. It's like, why make it so big if I can't fill the rest of the space? And that's how YouTube designed theirs. It's super annoying. And normally I would have used one of my other templates that I've made to create someone else's YouTube cover art and stuff like that, but I've chosen not to, specifically just to help out with this tutorial, just so people can see the process and what you can do in order to get your artwork to fit in the right section specifically for YouTube. So I'm leaving it as is, just so you can see what I am talking about. So we're exporting this as another JPEG. And again, because I changed the Photoshop document, I renamed it to YouTube cover art. When exporting the JPEG or PNG file, whatever it is, it actually adapts to the new name that you've named the document under. So you don't have to actually fuss about retyping the name and things like that, which is great. So are we saving? Okay, that's saved. So now we're going to go back to YouTube, and then we're going to click on customize channel. So whilst we are clicking on customize channel, it should take us to the option. Okay, where are we now? Okay, at the top here, I don't know, for those who have never edited your YouTube channel before, it's very easy. If you've got nothing on your YouTube channel here, just click on customize channel, and then you find that there's a little pen tool at the top right corner where you can edit your links. These are the links like to your website, to your Instagram and social media and stuff like that. It's always good to make sure that you edit that, because it just gives people easy access to your other social media platforms if you want them to find your platforms, that is. And then edit channel art, and that's what I'm trying to do. So that's what I'm clicking on. And then in this particular instance, you can see it even says recommended art size 2560 by 1440, maximum file size 6 megabytes. And the annoying thing is, if you try to upload something that's smaller, it actually rejects it. That's why you have to abide by that size. If you try to do some and say, no, but it fits in here, it actually rejects it, which is super annoying. So we've got the right spec size. Now we just want to see where it's going to permit me to have this artwork. As you can see on there, it's showing me that it will only take up that particular space. And then on the TV, this is what people will see, which I think is false, because I've never noticed anything like this for the TV. And it gives you the option to adjust and crop. And I'm like, adjust and crop what? If I try to adjust and crop this, can you see? I don't know if you can see where it's actually highlighting. So I can try to adjust and crop, and it's not even that visible, the little section that it allows you to crop, but you can see my head is going to be cropped up slightly, and I think it's going to be right at the bottom of the line. But let's select anyways, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Voila. So the reason why I left it as it was, it's so I can see exactly where I need to adjust, what I need to edit, where I need to put whatever it is I need to put. So in this particular situation, it will tell you that, oh yeah, I'm cropping this out and things like that. But in fact, you can use up all these additional spaces. So what I'm going to try and do, and YouTube might change it, I don't know, but now I'm going to do a bit of trial and error. Something I know for a fact that's going to stick is all I have to do is move this down a little bit, which would be great. And then I'm going to move them closer to this side. And then this bar, I'm going to stretch it out all the way to the edges, which is great. And then this, I'm going to do the same thing as well. Not that it really matters that much. And then I'm going to try and measure. I can see the top of my head there. I'm going to have to move it down a little bit maybe. And then move it, because I would rather my image was kind of like right there, or just above all of this, because it's just odd to have this line at the end, it's weird, it's bizarre. And that's what annoys me about YouTube. But this is where now you have to keep going back and forth, having a look at this, going back, having a look at this, and making sure that you kind of got the sizes right. The only thing that I think is working for me really decently right now is this. It gives a really good outline. So now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom out. Where is the lower third, the rectangle? So we're going to take that out. And this is where I'm going to be going back and forth, locking layers off, locking layers on, unlocking them. That way I don't mess around with the wrong one. And the good thing is, once you've got it done the first time around and you've saved that file, and that's your template for however long until YouTube change, the rules, right? So we're going to start with which one is this one? Okay, we're going to start with that one. So that rectangle, and Control T. I'm just going to use Control, if it'll let me. Okay, I'm going to use Control T, and I'm using Alt and my mouse key to literally just stretch it out. I'm stretching it all the way to the end, like I said. And then press that. And then remember, I noticed that on the head section, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's up to there. Okay. So which means it's like up to there. That gives me the option to move my image, not only, oh, sugar, I forgot something. Did it move? Yeah, I thought so. And this is why I lock things off. I moved the background because I didn't lock it. So now I need a locker. And also I need to move this one as well. So first, let me move that one then in that case. Control T as well. And then using the Alt key, stretch it out all the way to the end. And again, if you notice, because it cropped all the way up here, I don't even need to move the frame anywhere else because it's going to be cropped out anyways. And then I'm going to lock that off because I think I've got them where I need them to be, because I don't want to have to move them. So I'm going to go to the social icons. So I'm going to unlock them. And where's the wording for them? Unlock them. So I'm going to select them. Control. Nope, do not select that. And then, like I said, I was going to move them down. So I'm literally just using the arrow key to move them down. Was it anything else I wanted to do with them? Move them down and move them to the side. That was it. Then move them to the side. Okay, that should be okay, because I want to avoid the profile picture blocking them as well. Remember, I want to avoid what happened with Twitter. And then I'm going to relock those. Whilst they're still selected, whatever it is that you've got selected, you can actually do a double lock. You don't have to do them individually. And then I'm going to go to Alaka. So I'm going to unlock Alaka. I'm going to select the group where the images are. And I'm going to move. You know what? I can't be bothered to. I'm going to do this, because if I have to do that slowly, it's going to get on my nerves. So I'm going to move that like this. I have a rough idea where I need to move the head, because I literally I need it to be at the edge. And then I might have to actually do this in order to just resize. Oh, it's terrible. Hang on, let me zoom in. Zoom right in. Okay. Okay, we're good. Is it done? Lock it back, please, because I don't want to mess with it. Anything else? Let me have a look. Move that. Okay, I think I'm gonna move Creativepreneur to literally right there. Although now that the outline is gone, that's fine though. Creativepreneur, lower third writing, unlock it, please. And also, when you've unlocked a group and you select one item within the group, it will automatically select that one particular item, and it automatically open that particular folder where the group is. So I'm going to use the Control T. That way it's just easier. When in Control T, it seems to move faster than when it's just selected. Let's move that far away. Hopefully that should work. Let's see. Is there anything else I've left out? I think that's just about it. So yeah, this is the tediousness of how YouTube have created their cover art to be made. Now, remember, I've kind of gone beyond the bounds of what it was showing me when I was doing the editing part of it. And so whether it's going to give me what I'm hoping I can achieve, that's another question altogether. And this is where you have to do a little bit of trial and error depending on the type of design that you're trying to show people, a type of design that you're trying to create for your channel. So let's save that, replace it, and just wait for that to, okay, it's done. We're going to go back to YouTube, and since we're already in edit mode, all we have to do is just edit the channel art all over again and select, or you can drag and drop, obviously. But we're already in the select option anyway, so it's already there. Might as well just stick with that. Okay, as you can see, it's showing me that like it's going to, let's go to the adjust and crop. Again, it's doing the same thing where it's acting like it's going to showcase, it's going to crop. It's weird, but I'm going to select it anyways and see what it does. You see, I was able to move my face to the very end, which is what I wanted. I was able to place the cover art. But here's the thing, right? I feel like I might have gotten away with it on this end, but have I really? So let us view it as a returning subscriber. Let's find out. And this is where you have to do a lot of testing to see if what you're trying to do has actually worked. And can you see the creativepreneur has been cut off a lot more than I anticipated? So which means I have to move this up a bit. And then also, again, it depends on how you are viewing it. Is I might actually have to make the social icons and the alaka a little bit bigger because of the fact that it's got a wider space. So, but my picture, I'm not moving it. I'm going to keep it where it is. But this, I'm going to have to move up. And then this, I'm going to have to make bigger. So I'm going to use that as a guide. So we're going to move. The thing is, I'm already on them. So select all of them. Good. And move them up. That's fine. And then lock them off. And then I'm going to go back to the social icons. That one, wording, wording. And then with these ones, because I've got them selected together, all I'm doing is Control T again, because I don't want anything to move out of, I've got character selected. So I have to always go back there because that's what allows me to be more flexible with my working. Now, wait, why is it acting like it's selected something else? Strange. I think it's because of these other ones, maybe. I don't know. That's strange. Anyways, let's go have a look at this again. Okay, so we want to make it bigger to come down a bit and then move forward a bit. Okay, so the idea here, which means I have to zoom out, so let me, thank you, is to come down a bit and move this side a little bit. And I think I'm going to make it move up a bit as well. Voila. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's good. Because another thing you have to be careful of is having to skew the social icons. That can be quite problematic if you find that you have actually skewed them up. They don't always end up looking pretty. And so I think this should give us what we need. And I know it seems odd, like, okay, but you've got that blue space. But because YouTube crops it out, it's fine. And this is if you've decided to put a line. You might have decided, you know what, you don't want a line. You might just want the wording there. You might want to have several pictures, you know. So it's honestly, it varies. It varies from social media to social media to, I mean, to channel, depending on what it is. Like for me, my other channel has got something completely different. It's got something completely different because that one I was able to actually update it like just within the year or so. So let's replace that one. And hopefully this is going to be the final section. But YouTube is the one that you might find you might fidget with a little bit here and there. But again, it's just readjusting as opposed to redoing any of the artwork that you've initially created, because the importance about having to create a good social media brand is it allowing me to edit the artwork from that? Let's see. Oh, good. That's a new thing. I've never noticed it do that before. But yeah, a good social media brand is making sure that all your brands look the same across the board. That is so important. So I'm just going to select it anyways because the adjustment is going to be the same. There you go. You see now it's got oh, this is bothering me because it's not center aligned. Okay, that's fine. That's an easy fix. That, my friends, is an easy fix. All I have to do is this. Not too much, I think. I'd rather it was closer to the bottom than the top, if that makes sense. But overall, I think it's done the job. It's done the job that I set out to do, to be honest. Let's see, last but not least, hopefully. This is like what, the fourth attempt? It's what you get when you've got a bit of OCD. But to be honest, it's not even about OCD. It's just making sure that your brand looks good, you know. And people can actually take you like, okay, this person actually takes their brand seriously. They're actually making an effort to make sure that this is aligned well, this has been placed well, this has been placed the correct way. So let's see how this one ends up looking. And select. Voila. Yes. So this I'm happy with. My image is right on the corner where I need it to be. It's not fussy. I'm okay with this being here. If I had another picture that I liked, possibly I could have maybe placed it here, and maybe I might change it and place one in time, but but this will have to be offline. But I'm quite happy with it. So now when I go to my channel, voila. I scrolled up too much. You can see that looks nice and clean the way I wanted it. When you go to the Alaka Facebook page, again, it matches the YouTube channel. When you go to the Twitter page, it matches the YouTube channel, and the Instagram. And if you notice something I'm trying to maintain as well, the only one that's different is the picture here on the page, because I haven't really been updating much on my page. But another thing that I've been doing is making sure that they all have the same image. I have to figure out which one I'm going to try and use for all of them, but I think I probably will be changing my page, my Facebook page, to have this image that both YouTube and Twitter have. But yeah, that kind of brings me to a close of this particular updating my social media covers and tutorial. So I don't know what you think of it. If you've been learning, if there's something that you've learned, let me know if you find this handy, if this is down your lane, it's something that you're interested in. I hope it's been very helpful. I'm happy that I have had the chance to actually change my social media covers, because they're long overdue. So I'm kind of happy to be kind of over and done with that part of it, to be honest. But yeah, that I'm going to close that, and I'm going to remove that. But yes, that's just about it, really. Thank you very much for tuning in. But if you like the tutorial, if you enjoyed the tutorial, if you find it very, very handy, if it's been helpful to you, please make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel and are not subscribed yet, make sure that you click that subscribe button, so that as well as the bell button, so that you can receive notifications every time I go live. I am going to be probably giving more tutorials about branding and things like that, because there's a lot of things that I want to update on my end of it. So whilst updating my platforms, I am going to be sharing my process as I teach other people how they can be able to do that with their own channels as well. And so, yes, thank you very much for tuning in. I have been Alaka, and I suppose I shall see you next time. Goodbye.